Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. I'm Josie Warner. I'm Head of Philanthropy at Act for Peace, and I'll be hosting today. Before we begin, I just wanted to run through a couple of items of housekeeping. We are recording today's session. We will share it with you following. We're also going to share it with people who were interested in the content of today and listening in, however, weren't able to make this session. We don't have a formal Q&A session today. However, there is a button that you will find at the bottom of your Zoom screen marked Q&A. And if you'd like to raise a question or a comment for us during today's session, please use that function. We are keeping an eye on it. We may not respond during the webinar, but we certainly will also respond to any comments or feedback you have for us that are raised through that function, maybe following the webinar. And I'd also like to just thank you in advance for bearing with us if we do have any technical hiccups, but we hope that it's all going to run smoothly today. I'd like now to do an acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land in which each of us meet today. I'm coming to you from Kent Street in Sydney, which is the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us today. We gather from different places around Australia, and so this acknowledgement reminds us of the deep and enduring connection that people have to land, community, and culture. At Act for Peace, our work brings people together across borders and backgrounds, united by a shared belief in peace, equality, and hope. And we are all part of a global movement to support one another in building a more peaceful world. It is in that spirit of connection, respect, and justice that we acknowledge country throughout Australia today. We have an exciting program ahead of us today. Firstly, our CEO, Andrew Hassett, will speak to you in a moment, and he will share a message of thanks as well as looking ahead towards 2030 as a new strategy period for Act for Peace. We then have a series of pre-recorded messages from our partners around the world. They have recorded these messages, especially for today's impact address. It's not so easy to always have them dial in, so it's a very special part of the program. We then have one of our loyal and very generous supporters who's agreed to join us today and share some personal reflections on why he gives to the Christmas Bowl and more broadly to Act for Peace. And then two of our colleagues, Ruthann Richardson, Chief of Engagement, and Aimee Keay, Head of Marketing and Content, have recently returned from visiting programs in Zimbabwe and Indonesia. And so they're going to give you personal accounts of the impact of working in local partnership. And then we'll close together today at around 11:40. So thank you again for being with us and looking forward to the program ahead. It's now my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Andrew Hassett, our CEO.
Thanks so much, Josie, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of the Act for Peace team. It really is a wonderful organisation. We have a committed and passionate board that has been with us for some time, and a talented and really hardworking team that I'm really getting to know very well. Most importantly, we have a loyal and active supporters that really deeply believe in the work that Act for Peace does, with and through partners to prevent and respond to displacement. People forced to flee their homes due to conflict, environmental stresses, and natural disasters. So I want to sincerely thank you for your support. We're very grateful, and we simply could not do the work we do without you. And you've no doubt seen on TV screens and read in the papers that this work that we do together is needed more now than ever. So before talking about the Christmas Bowl, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I started here as CEO at Act for Peace about 3 months ago. I've been married to Ali for 23 years. We have two lovely daughters, Ishi, who attends university studying English literature and film, and Lola, who is at school and loves to play soccer. I'm constantly driving her to soccer practices and soccer games. I've spent most of my career in international development, and I've always been drawn to organizations that choose to, and are committed to walking alongside people in their toughest moments of their lives. Organizations that pursue justice and stand in solidarity with communities, with individuals, stand alongside civil society and governments and the private sector, because all of those and others have such a critical role to play in bringing about change. And we know that we're stronger together. And really, that's one of the key things that brought me to Act for Peace. And that is the belief that everyone should feel safe, no matter who they are and where they live, and have the same rights and opportunities to live with hope and dignity. Today, we're witnessing the highest levels of displacement due to conflict and around that have ever been recorded. Conflict, environmental stresses, social fragmentation, and unjust governance are deeply interconnected challenges and are driving instability at a global scale. In the past year alone, the number of people that have been forced to flee their homes has risen to 123 million. That's 123 million lives, and that their personal lives have been upended, and it changes their story and their family stories forever. And that's exactly why our work matters so much. Now, I'd like to reflect briefly on the incredible legacy of the Christmas Bowl that you're all familiar with. The Christmas Bowl has been part of our story for 76 years, and many of our supporters have been giving to the Christmas Bowl for decades. I was speaking to a gentleman 2 weeks ago from Melbourne that had been supporting Act for Peace via the Christmas Bowl since 1973. And he really spoke about the importance of supporting people that have less opportunities in life than him and his family. And as a new CEO, it is just so encouraging to hear these stories of why people like Shawn and others support Act for Peace. The Christmas Bowl began in 1949 and with a simple idea. Reverend Frank Byatt placed a bowl on his Christmas table and invited people to share what they could for those that were experiencing hunger and hardship after war. From that humble beginning, it has grown to one of Australia's longest running efforts for peace and justice. The Christmas Bowl has raised over $117 million in its lifetime to support people displaced by conflict and impacted by disaster. It has changed countless lives. In 2025, your support of the Christmas Bowl has raised over $1.7 million so far, and it's a deeply generous and meaningful contribution to the work we do with and through partners overseas. Act for Peace supporters have told us that the Christmas Bowl matters to them because it's a meaningful Christmas tradition. And it anchors their experience of Christmas in the spirit of generosity and shared hope. And that is vital, and it's vital that not to turn away from suffering, even when it feels far away and distant. It's about being part of something bigger. So it's an honor to step into this 76-year legacy and help shape what comes next. And I'd encourage you to get in contact with me and the team to share your ideas, your comments, your questions, so that you can contribute as critical partners in the work that we do to what does come next for Act for Peace. The team and I are focused on strengthening our partnerships, making your support go further, and continuing to stand alongside people forced to flee their homes. We also want to create more space for partners and supporters, voices, your voices, to energize this work. Because together we are part of the global collective movement for peace and justice. We want to increase public conversations and through this help to influence communities and social norms and policies that perpetuate some of the global instability and that prevent peace from taking place. For us, peace is not an abstract idea, it is deeply practical. We often talk about impact, but what you're really part of is something more powerful, a ripple effect, because what starts as a single action doesn't stop there. A livelihood program in overseas creates income. Income enables a family to send their children to school and get an education. And we know what happens when people have education. It creates opportunities for themselves and their families, their community. It reduces the risk of poverty and conflict. And over time, communities grow stronger, safer, and more resilient. And people in those communities have more time, resources, and capabilities to help one another. This is not something any one organization can do alone. It's something that we do together. So in a moment, you'll hear directly from several of our trusted program partners around the world. They've taken the time to record these messages for you, and it's a privilege to be able to hear directly from them. One of the defining strengths and a real point of difference that I see in Act for Peace's work is the way that we do the work. We don't deliver solutions to communities. We partner with them, supporting local people to lead change in their own communities. We prioritize locally led partners because they are best placed to drive meaningful, lasting change in their own communities and countries. They understand their communities. They understand the context and the challenges, and they also know the solutions because they are part of the fabric of those communities. They are there before, during, and long after international organizations come and go. And it's through their leadership that responses are not only relevant in the moment, but sustainable for the future. And that's what we're all working towards here at Act for Peace. We also work with a mix of partners because each one plays a different role. And it's a combination of these partners that helps create the change that we're seeking. We also see you, our supporters, as critical partners in this change. Throughout history, people of faith have played a significant role in challenging injustice, addressing inequality, and standing alongside their neighbours in need. This is not a new story, but a continuing one, shaped by humility, shaped by compassion, and a commitment to justice in action. As Proverbs 31 reminds us, in words that guide just leadership, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Defend the right of those in need. Act with justice on behalf of the poor and vulnerable. These words speak to a clear calling to use our voice, our influence, and our resources, not only for ourselves, but in the service of others. So thank you for your generosity, your trust, and your long-standing commitment to our work. I look forward to getting to know many of you better over the coming months and years, and hope that you enjoy the rest of the program today. Back to you, Josie.
Thank you very much, Andrew. In just a moment, we are going to hear a compilation of messages that have been recorded directly for today's webinar, sharing messages of thanks, but also sharing messages of change or impact. As Andrew mentioned, the recordings come from a range of different partners working in different countries, but also at different levels of the sort of change ecosystem. And so I now, my colleague is now going to load the video, but it's probably the most honourable part of today's program is hearing these direct messages to you.
My name is Newton Mapanzuri. I am a project officer with Christian Care in the Saka district and Masvingo province, Zimbabwe. Christian Care is implementing a project which is meant to improve the livelihoods of the communities in Saka district. Over the past 6 months, Christian Care has trained farmers in small value addition for small grains. That is specifically looking at sorghum, pure millet, and finger millet. The process there is to improve the amount of income the households can get after processing the small grain instead of selling them before processing. The other farmers have also been trained in value addition targeting fish farming. Under fish farming, have received training on how to process these fish. Some of the process involved drying the fish or refrigerating the fish so that they can sell them at a higher price. So in the meantime, Christian Care is trying to empower the communities where local leadership training has been given so that the committees know what to do, how to lead their projects so that sustainability is strongly established in the communities. We wish and so much long that the churches in Australia continue to fund us, to source funds for us and pray for us so that there is harmony and their livelihoods continue to give them a source of living.
Over the past few months, we supported 50 households, reaching more than 300 individuals and a high number of persons with disability. Our goal has been to help families move from vulnerability towards self-reliance. More than 80 young people completed vocational training and over 50 small businesses have been successfully established. Today, many families are earning an income, improving their savings, and some have been able to reduce their debts. All families now have enough food, but beyond the numbers, what truly matters is the human impact. One participant, Fatima, had a passion for making chocolate, but struggled for years to make her business succeed. Through the project, she received training, mentoring, and the support she needed to grow her idea. Today, she runs a successful business, supplies local shops, and produces large quantities every month. She told us, "This program made me successful." Stories like Fatima's remind us that with the right support, people are not just surviving, they are rebuilding their lives with hope and confidence. We would truly appreciate your continued support and prayers for strength, for opportunity, and for the lasting change. Thank you for standing with us.
Hello, my name is Titin Rezeki. I'm a program manager of YCWS, or you can say Yayasan Cita Wadah Swadaya. We are based in Indonesia. The CLEAR project have a goal to strengthening community in the area of flooding in the Makassar district, South Sulawesi. We have working in the 4 villages in this area, and currently we have faced some improvement, such as we have a form of disaster village team that now they are actively involved in the preparedness program. They are take action as a leader for the community about the disaster prevention. And second, we already set up the early warning system with the community. And the last thing is we also support the vulnerable community with the livelihood support so they can continue their livelihood after impacted by floodings. I recently met one of the community members who has sewing machines broken and damaged because of floodings. We support her to repair the sewing machines, and she can start work again as a tailor, and she can gain the results quickly, so she can support her grandchildren's educations.
Hi, I'm Samina Jamshed and I work with Community World Service Asia. There's a dire need of education. We are particularly working in desert areas, which are very, very remote areas, and where the government even is not able to reach. This was the third year in which, we achieved from zero enrollment of girls to 450 students, which is a huge achievement. And now after 3 years, I can with full confidence say that the community really wants their girls to go to school. And now as the community also wants, we started with one village and now we have 3 villages, and we have focused, we started with 3 schools and now we have 9 schools, but we want to expand it to other villages where it's very hard to reach. So we hope that we manage to give education to the girls who really need that, because it's their right. Thank you.
Today we stand on the balcony of our office, where you can see behind us the southern suburbs of Beirut that has been receiving attacks since the beginning of March. As you know, since the 2nd of March, Lebanon has been going through a crisis with more than 20% of the population already displaced. By now, we have more than 3,500 people injured and more than 1,300 casualties, and unfortunately, 20% of them, they are children. We have more than 121 children already killed by the incidents. The huge are needs as NCA, but also as all ACT members in Lebanon. We've been trying to respond to the needs. The needs are huge. We've been trying to provide shelter needs like mattresses, like pillows, blankets. It's still very cold this winter. But as well, we've been providing the food assistance with many members providing cooked meals, ready-to-eat kits, food kits, and hygiene kits, as well as other support needed like water and like diesel for the collective shelters.
Unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. What is happening to Lebanon is not just happening to Lebanon, but it's also being affecting all of the region, all of the Middle East region. Currently, Gaza is a crisis within a crisis. The needs are immense and they keep on rising, as well as what is being faced in Iraq, in Jordan, in Syria, as well as here. Today, our ACT Alliance members are all over the region, working together to be able to support those that are most in need. What we ask of you all, and what we are trying to work through ACT for Peace, is for communications and ways of creating peace in these much needed times. We also ask for your prayers for safety for children, safety for elderly, safety for all humans that are being affected in this horrible war that is all over the region.
Thank you for the videos. As mentioned, each of those partners has been supported through the Christmas Bowl in recent years, and they reflect a wide range of partnerships that vary at the local level in terms of the support that's needed and the ways in which we can support those partners to build enduring peace and capacity. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Shawn Wheelan. He's joined us today to share some personal thoughts on why he gives to the Christmas Bowl. As an organisation, we're really coming to recognise that the voice of our supporters is just as important as those of our partners as we move together in a collective movement for peace. Thank you very much, Shawn, for agreeing to be part of today, and we look forward to your thoughts.
Thank you. Just see if I turn myself on. Now, why? Hopefully you can see me. I can't see myself. Hello, there we are. So welcome everybody, and hello. My name's Shawn Wheelan. I live here with my wife Natalie Sims and our son Daniel Wheelan on Wurundjeri country. Thanks, Josie, for the lovely acknowledgement at the beginning. And I wanted to say a few things to you all about I guess my lifelong journey of giving, and in many ways it parallels a lifelong journey of faith more generally. And I thought it would be helpful to talk a little bit about how we go about giving, or how we approach our giving, who we give to, and particularly why Act for Peace. The first thing about how we go about giving is that we tend to do it fairly quietly. We don't sign up for big plaques on buildings with our name on it and all that sort of thing. Certainly very much influenced by Jesus saying, if your right hand is giving, your left hand shouldn't know what you're doing. Terrible misquote of a passage there, but you know what I'm talking about. The idea that giving is something that we do because it's a good thing to do, because it's the right thing to do, and not for our own benefit. So it actually feels a little bit odd for me to be sitting here and talking to you all about our giving. But it did prompt me to not put on a nice collared shirt, but rather this fabulous old t-shirt that I absolutely love, by a guy called H. Greenwood, who at the time I think was working in Uniting Church Youth Ministries. But yes, it's a give, for those who can't see very well, it's a giveaway sign that says give away. And that has been, for me, not just a motto or a fun t-shirt, but actually a central part of my understanding of the Christian faith. And Jesus has a decidedly negative attitude towards money and people having money and building up money, which puts us in an awkward position as comfortable middle-class Australians. We have, from the beginning of our marriage, Natalie and I had what we called a sharing budget, or a sharing component in our budget. Sometimes we've called it the sharing money, sometimes we've called it the giveaway money, sometimes we've called it the justice money. But all of those, I guess, encapsulate what we're trying to do. And that's always been a fixed percentage of our income that we've earned, including in times when we really were eating beans and rice in order to be able to also buy a house at the same time, and so on. Now, of course, as luck would have it, or the blessings of God, whichever way you like to look at it, we now are very comfortable. We have money, we have a comfortable house, and we've even got investments. And so part of the challenge for us has been to wrestle with, well, what does it mean to say that, in the words of the Old Testament, we shouldn't be joining house to house and field to field, or as Jesus would say, just building one bigger barn after another to store up our wealth. So the approach we've taken has been to, influenced by Jonathan Cornford and the Manigum folks, as well as Ched Myers and the Bartimaeus ministries in the US, to think about, how can we structure significant amounts of money that we give away, not as a kind of, oh, wouldn't it be nice to give to this, or wouldn't it be nice to give to that appeal, but rather, no, we're committed to give away a certain amount of money. It's just a question of where is that going to go. So we're now at the point where we've been able to devote half of our investment income, for example, to that, as well as the original sort of percentage of our income that we earn. So I say this not because you have to do exactly what we do. Obviously, it would be a silly thing for me to suggest, but everyone's in their own circumstances and has their own different understanding of money and a theology of money. But I wanted to share that because it's really worked for us. It's been helpful to us to understand that our connection and our pattern of giving to others beyond ourselves is a core part of how we live and how we organise our finances in our family life. So then, in terms of who we give to, for us it's been important to say that a percentage of our sharing budget, or our justice money, it goes to pay the rent. So we choose Aboriginal organisations that we particularly want to support, including the traditional owners on the country that we live, as well as others. We give to climate action movements because that's a really critical concern for us. But we also give to Act for Peace and through our own denominational sort of international aid and partnership thing, Uniting World. And that's a long standing thing for us both, but for me to tell my story, I guess. I grew up in a family that supported what was then Force 10 and became Act for Peace. So we've got that kind of long standing family formation part of it, and that sticks. It's remarkably sticky, and we hope that our son will pick up that from us as well. We've both been in congregations, including our current congregation, where supporting the Christmas Bowl is an annual event and something that is always part of the worship life of the community through Advent, as well as just having the bowl there to put money in. And even when we go and visit Natalie's parents' church back in Adelaide, they're also part of the Christmas Bowl. So there's this sense of being part of something that is a much wider story. It's not just, oh, this is a charity that I picked because I personally like it, but actually we are doing something collectively. And even when we give a check or a direct transfer these days to Act for Peace, separate to putting a token amount in the bowl for symbolic purposes, we feel that we're doing that as part of our congregation's effort, and we report it that way. And we feel like we're connecting with people around Australia who are part of that project and that process of giving, including Natalie's parents in Adelaide. So that theme of connection I want to expand too, because why Act for Peace? Not just because of habit or tradition or it's in our community, but because one of the things I love about Act for Peace is that sense of connectedness with the people we're giving through and to. And we've seen that in the videos that we just saw, a lovely example of that. Giving ideally should be relational. I mean, I talked about theories and philosophies of giving, and we've got this kind of structured account to how we do it. But in the actual practice of giving can't be just a bank transaction. It needs to be something that I feel some connection with the people I'm giving to. And we should ultimately be giving out of love, not out of duty. And that sense of connection that flows through the stories that we hear back through Act for Peace, through the publications and the websites and the videos and all the things is just terrific. So why Act for Peace? One, sort of history, tradition, and family connections with other givers. Secondly, connections with the people we're giving to and the people we're giving through, which is the local folks on the ground. Thirdly, confidence. I've got a lot of confidence in the programs that Act for Peace runs, which they've built up over many years, and the people who work there. And when I say confidence in the programs, I don't just mean that it's a good program that does what it said it would do, but that the programs themselves are not just Band-Aid relief. I mean, it's really important to me. And I noticed on the slide when Andrew was speaking, the little tagline, confronting injustice together through the ACT Alliance. I love every word of that. That's just spot on. And for me, it's important that Act for Peace continue to engage in confronting injustice through fighting the root causes, through building people's capacity, and not just immediate Band-Aid relief, as important as that often is. And that the work extends to advocacy. We're actually trying to change systems and change politics so that people don't start wars and so that people aren't forced out by economic injustices. And of course, the big one that's going to do us all in climate change, or the climate emergency that we're facing. So I'm grateful that Act for Peace is engaged in all of those things, and I encourage them only to continue that. And last, I suppose it's worth mentioning that I do think it's helpful that Act for Peace runs with fairly low overheads compared with many other organisations, and the money that is spent here in Australia as opposed to overseas, a lot of that is going to education of the Australian community through the churches and their own direct networks and into the advocacy work. So again, I encourage that. So that's my time. Those are the things I wanted to share with you. Love to chat and say hi to anybody who might know me. If you want to contact me or give me a buzz afterwards. I don't think there's time for Q&A and engagement, but I hope those thoughts or any one of them might be helpful to you who are here on the webinar.
Thank you so much, Shawn. Believe it or not one of the points that Shawn just spoke to were pre-prepped. So that was such an incredible summary of your belief in Act for Peace, the organisation, and the reasons that you give. I want to personally thank Shawn for being involved and for your support through the Christmas Bowl and other areas of fundraising. But thank all the supporters on the call today. Again, this year's Christmas Bowl so far has raised 1.7 million, and funding is still coming in to the Christmas Bowl. But throughout its lifetime, it's raised over $117 million to support the sorts of programs that we've been learning about today. And as for Shawn's point about wanting a bit more of the chance for supporters to be conversational, we will be arranging more webinars as we go forward, and we will be arranging more opportunity for some of this exchange. The voice and opinions of our supporters really does matter to us. Now, jumping, I want to introduce Ruthann Richardson, our Chief of Engagement. She's recently returned from a field visit in Zimbabwe, and she can share firsthand the impact of the partnerships we're supporting and some of the stories of the people.
Thank you so much, Josie, and thank you to Shawn and everyone else who's been involved so far today. As Josie just mentioned, I've recently had the privilege of traveling to Zimbabwe, where I was able to spend some time with our partners there and to see firsthand the impacts that they are having in their communities with your support. There are so many incredible stories that I could share with you, but today I really wanted to focus on one particular story, and that's Jane's. And I wanted to share Jane's story with you because many of you might remember her. We shared her story through the Christmas Bowl just a few years ago. For others, this might be the first time you're being introduced to Jane, so I hope you'll give me just a few minutes to tell you about this incredible woman and her journey. In 2019, Cyclone Idai tore through parts of southern Africa, including Zimbabwe. Its impacts were felt across the region, but particularly in Chimanimani, where Jane lived. In addition to the winds and heavy rain, the cyclone triggered powerful landslides, bringing mud and boulders down from the mountains and crushing everything in their path. It was devastating. Entire communities were destroyed, homes swept away, livelihoods disappeared overnight. And for many families, it wasn't just their possessions that were lost, but loved ones as well. Jane was one of those people. She lost her home, she was badly injured, and heartbreakingly, she lost her children. She was the only one in her family who survived. In the space of a single night, everything in her life changed. And like so many others around the world today, Jane found herself displaced, forced from her home, not by choice, but by disaster. After the cyclone, Jane and many others like her spent 2 years living in an emergency tent before they were eventually relocated to a new community. And while that might sound like a fresh start, the reality was incredibly difficult. When they arrived, there was no reliable access to clean water, no nearby healthcare, very little infrastructure at all. The entire community relied on a single borehole, and people had to walk long distances each day just to collect water. For women, like Jane, this often meant walking early in the morning or late at night, putting them at risk. And for Jane, this was even more challenging. She was still living with the impacts of her injuries, including a fractured skull, and yet she was carrying heavy buckets of water long distances on her head. As you can imagine, without water, everything becomes harder. You can't grow food, you can't maintain hygiene, you can't care for your family in the way that you want to. And alongside this, there were other pressures too: overcrowded conditions, rising tensions within the host community, and increased risks of gender-based violence. So when we first met Jane a few years ago, she wasn't just rebuilding, she was still very much surviving. But what stood out about Jane, even then, was her resilience. Despite everything she had been through, the loss, trauma, uncertainty, she was still showing up, still moving forward. And with support from the Christmas Bowl, support began to reach communities like hers. Working through trusted local partners and with the local community, people were able to start addressing some of these immediate and practical needs, like access to clean, safe water. And that matters because when something as basic as water becomes accessible, everything begins to shift. health improves, safety improves, time is freed up, and slowly people start to rebuild. But what I really wanted to share with you today is Jane now. Earlier this month, I had the privilege of meeting Jane in person. And the woman that I met is not the same woman my colleague first encountered in the aftermath of the cyclone. Today, Jane is absolutely thriving. She's now raising a young daughter who was born since the cyclone, and there is a sense of hope and life in her home again. She now has access to clean water at her home, something that has completely transformed her daily life. She has a thriving garden and even her own goats and cattle. But her story doesn't just stop there. Jane is actually the chairperson of her community's water committee. She's taken on that responsibility within her community. She's someone that others turn to. She's the person that people call when there is a problem. She told us, whenever a problem arises, I know how to fix it. If a pipe cracks, if a tap breaks, if the system isn't working, people knock on her door. She's the one that they go to. There is a pride in that, a confidence, a deep sense of purpose. Jane is not just receiving support, she is playing a key role in making sure that it continues for her community. And when you meet Jane, when you see her smile and you listen to her speak, you realize you are not just seeing recovery, you're seeing restoration. And this is what it can look like when communities are supported in ways that strengthen what's already there. When people are given the opportunity to rebuild, contribute, lead, and take their place within their community. Jane's story is just one story. Across the community, we saw the impacts of your support in so many ways. A school that is now opened, creating safer access to education for children who had to walk long distances if they could go at all. We saw sports programs bringing people together from both the host and the displaced communities, creating connection, restoring joy, and helping communities to heal after trauma. We met community protection officers like Ibo, people within the community who are now equipped to identify risks, respond to situations of vulnerability, and support families facing challenges. Not just meeting immediate needs, but strengthening the community's ability to respond to challenges in the future. And through all of this, we saw the role of the church, local churches, through partners like the Zimbabwe Council of Churches, walking alongside their communities, not just in moments of crisis, but over the long term. And this is where you come in, because none of this just happens. Jane's story didn't change overnight, didn't change because of one moment or one gift. It changed because people like you have continued to show up year after year, giving, praying, and standing alongside communities. So when you hear Jane's story, you're not just hearing about one woman in Zimbabwe. You're hearing about what's possible when we come together and act for peace. Thank you so much for being a part of the incredible legacy of the Christmas Bowl. It was a privilege to see how your gifts are changing lives.
Thank you so much, Ruthann. And now I get to introduce our final speaker of the day, Aimee Keay, our Head of Marketing and Content. And similarly, Aimee's had the opportunity to recently visit Indonesia and see our programs and our partnerships firsthand.
Thank you so much, Josie and team, and thank you everyone for being here. It's an incredible privilege to share. So yes, as Josie mentioned, in February, I had the opportunity to travel to Indonesia to meet our program partner there, YCWS, or Yayasan Cita Wada Swadaya. And I visited the CLEAR program, which stands for Community-Led Early Action and Resilience. So this program, as you can see on the map there, is located in Makassar, which is in South Sulawesi. And this is a really low-lying region that experiences very high rainfall and rapid sea level rise. So these combined risks means it's extremely prone to flooding. And with widespread poverty, the impacts of climate-related disasters in this region are enormous. So the CLEAR program helps communities prepare for disasters and ensure that they can respond and recover effectively. The program achieves this by working in the community to make sure every resident knows how to prepare for and respond to the reoccurring floods, sharing early warnings, helping with evacuation, and providing emergency financial assistance so vulnerable community members are supported to evacuate safely and also meet their daily needs during floods. CLEAR also supports the community to access alternative livelihoods so community members have reliable sources of income to meet their families' needs. During our visit to a local community in Makassar, we learned directly from residents how the flooding is severely impacting their lives. And the relentless nature of floods in the region is definitely overwhelming. You can see in this picture here, a community member, Saneng, is showing us how high the floodwaters rise outside her home. And that's not just a once-off disaster. Makassar experiences 83 extreme weather events each year, including 53 flood events. And little did we know, these streets would be underwater just days after we returned home. So when I was there, we were standing on that street in the dry. And then the following few days later, when we got home, the team sent us this photo of the streets inundated with water. Even though the impacts of flooding are huge, the community-wide impact of the CLEAR program in the community is remarkable. Every person we met told a story of how the program has made a huge difference, either in their own personal life or throughout their community. Adifa, who you see here, is the head of her household and provides for her teenage daughter. She has always struggled to meet their daily needs, and every wet season, her home is impacted by flooding. She told us, "When there is a flood, we do not earn anything. We feel ashamed. We are ashamed to go and ask others for help because we are poor." She has a small business selling vegetables, and through CLEAR, she receives support to grow her business, increase the quantity and variety of goods she sells, and improve her income. With that assistance, she said, I was able to slowly turn it around little by little until it became like this. Before, I only sold chilies, tomatoes, and leafy vegetables. Now I can buy onions, buy sago, buy other mixed ingredients as well. So from my sales, I can save a little at a time, and I can also give my child some money for groceries. Hannah, if you don't mind just flicking to the next one. Thank you. One of the ways the program is achieving sustainable community-led change is through establishing local disaster committees. These are known as Kampong Siaga Bengkanas, or KSBs, which function as community-level drivers of preparedness and resilience. So these groups are made up of trained community members who coordinate preparedness activities, mobilize residents and communities, and serve as the first point of coordination during flood risks and emergencies. Community disaster committees regularly run training and drills, testing emergency equipment like life jackets, stretchers, radios, and first aid kits, so they are ready to respond when a disaster hits. During the wet season, the local KSB helps ferry children safely across the flooded rice fields in small boats so they can get to school. And when a flood is coming, the KSBs make sure residents are warned and have plenty of time to evacuate. If you can flick to the next one, Hannah, they share information on WhatsApp groups and conduct door-to-door visits to make sure vulnerable community members, including the elderly and people with disabilities, are supported. Women's enterprise groups have also received support and training to grow small businesses so they can work together in a collective to produce and sell products. This means entire families have access to reliable incomes that can sustain them through regular floods. This group produces chips from bananas, which they package and sell in their community. Generous Christmas Bowl supporters like you make it possible for Act for Peace's Indonesian partner to deliver this program through a local organisation based in Makassar, and your love in action is making a huge difference. The most rewarding part of this visit was seeing the comprehensive community-wide impact of the program that is realised because of the locally led approach. Transformation is taking place because leadership is centred locally, from the local governments, municipalities, and even village leaders who support the program, right through to the volunteers who are so passionate about seeing change in their communities that they give their time to help their own community members prepare and respond to disasters. It's amazing to see how support from churches and generous Australians through the Christmas Bowl is having such a huge community-wide impact in Indonesia, for individuals like Adifa, for women's groups, and for the entire community through volunteer-based disaster committees. Your generosity and commitment to stand alongside communities who would otherwise be facing repeated displacement is helping them become resilient to the impacts of frequent flooding by helping families to stay at home, helping parents to continue to earn an income to meet their children's needs, and helping communities support each other so they can recover from disasters. Thank you so much for your dedication and support.
Thank you so much, Aimee, and thank you everyone who's spoken today. So you have told us that the Christmas Bowl is an important tradition to our supporters, but you've also told us that you want to understand the impact of your giving. And we hope that today we've given you a wide range of impressions of how the Christmas Bowl has supported a range of local partners around the world in recent years, and real personal stories of impact. Shawn also mentioned the ability or the giving through Act for Peace and the Christmas Bowl because of the connection he feels to the people receiving the help and support and partnership. So I really want to invite everyone either to contact us directly if you have ideas for us or things that you'd like to know more about by using our email address, info@actforpeace.org.au, or even more. An enormous amount of videos and content goes up every week at least on our social media channels. And if you're not already following us on any that you use, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, we invite you also to connect with us there to continue to hear regularly from us. And as mentioned, we will be programming a brief series of webinars throughout the year, and we'll also be looking to connect some of our supporters in a more conversational format. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we really look forward to hearing from you or connecting with you on our socials.